Welcome to John Silva Reviews Twitch chat. Today we have another victim, which is Shaun. Let me lower down the music here. Hold on. Fuck. There you go. Shaun says, "Hey, I hope I'm allowed to post here. I recently tried draw it in your own style for some free CTN tickets, fingers crossed. I am reading through Color and Light by James Gurney, and I wanted to apply the things I've read about it in the book to an imagined scene. When painting, I wanted to 1. Create a strong composition that reads well, 2. Make the provided characters feel expressive, and 3. I wanted to push different material rendering and my new knowledge of light. Do you think I was successful? How could my execution be stronger? Thanks so much for taking your time to look and review my painting. Please roast me." He asked chat. Or he or she. I think Shaun is a male name, right? Shaun! Let me pause the music here. Jason! Shaun! Okay, I'm done. So Gael. Yeah. Ominous song. Let's do the portfolio review. Everything is lined up. I think it is. Yeah, okay, good. Free roast from John for subs. Yeah. Okay, so the first okay, so you wanna apply what you learned from James Gurney. I can see some things that you're trying to do that you were mostly successful at. I love. This is a very plus point for you as far as reviewing goes. I love that you added steps. These are your steps, right? Yeah, because it's the same image. This is really, really good because one thing I'm gonna mention that you've ruined at the end of the image, it was actually pretty good in one of these steps. Hashtag draw this Goro. Oh, this is from Goro Fujita, right? Veneno. Thank you for the raid. Welcome on in, everyone. I'm doing a sub critique now. Join in on the fun. Okay, so you're applying what you learned from James Gurney mostly. I've read that book countless times. I can see what you're trying to do in a lot of it. Let's start with the positive. I like the contrasts. The yellow here is not a bad idea. Right next to the red of the character, especially when everything else around is gray. That is a good, sort of a good addition. I'm saying sorta because I will explain why maybe doing it specifically here is not the best. I really like your interaction of the characters. That is a good thing that you were chasing, and I feel like you've done it well, right? Of course you can do it better. I will comment on that in a bit. The composition isn't bad. I feel like you lost some cool things in the sketch. You lost a couple of things in the sketch. Your sketch is better than the final. I've said it. This here, I would have restarted from here if I was you. This is like way better. And I'll explain why. The reason why is because number one rule of any image is that it needs to be readable. Now, there are images that seem to be, like, for example, there's a lot of painters that paint everything sort of fuzzy or with a lot of brush strokes, but even within the brush strokes, there's always like a focal point where it's like sharp and the colors are balanced. It takes a lot of knowledge to build something like that. And James Gurney does the same. If you read his books, you probably watch his videos. And in a lot of his videos, he talks about that. And I'm just sort of, taking from what he said and applying it here so that it relates to what you're reading, because you're trying to apply what you learned from James Gurney's book. So number one thing is readability. Your colors read way better. The silhouette reads way better. The character interaction, I feel like it was a bit better as far as the cat goes. For example, your cat here looks very cute. But here, the fact that there's the little paw that hold on to this ledge, it gives it weight, it gives it shape here, and that adds to storytelling. Here, the little paws are cute, but it's hidden and it's just a little blob. There's no silhouette. It feels like it might have been hard for the kitty to even be in that position to begin with. I'll start with storytelling and we'll go from there. Storytelling / composition. As far as storytelling / composition goes, the sketch here, I liked it a bit more. I liked that the robot, you're humanizing the robot here. He has his hand on his hip. He's looking at the, even in the final, he's still doing that. But he's looking at the cat. His jaw is a bit displaced. It's giving like a bit of form to the jaw here. You made everything very parallel on the silhouette. It looks like he's talking to the cat. The only issue here that you've improved is that the cat doesn't really seem to be interacting with anything, and here it's sort of like looking at the golden like what's that, like a hay strand thing, right? I wonder why he changed so many little things. Yes, I think it was a rendering issue more than anything. I think there was a shift to the legs here. I don't know if that was still existing, but you sort of just made him stand. Again, overall, there was a lot more... The gesture of the robot was a lot more humanizing and a lot more adorable in that regard. And I feel like you've changed... One thing you've done well is that in the sketch, the hand was going off frame. You want to avoid that as much as possible, so you brought the hand back. However, you didn't make a use out of it. Why is he doing his arm like that? Instead, make everything in the character relate with the interaction between the cat and the robot. So maybe this hand could be like, oh, it's a cute bunny. Maybe he's like trying to pet it or something. Or instead of having it on the golden strand on his mouth, maybe make it hold. Like, I know he has no thumbs, but maybe it's magnetic because it could be a metal, right? So it's magnetic. So he's kind of like holding it above, and there's a bit of communication between the characters. Again, I really, really like your sketch here. It works very, very well and looks like a very promising image, but I do think that maybe I'm gonna assume it's because of rendering. This happens to everyone. It happens to me as well. You just get too into it and you lose track of what is important. And what else? Oh, one thing. I think the design of your cat, other than the eyes, the fact that it's pointy, it doesn't help your case. First of all, I thought you're supposed to still do what the characters have here. Okay, I'll explain. Goro, this is the original design. These are some monk-ass fucking eyes here. Anyways, Goro was very smart about his design, where he has this robot, his squared shape, or a square with maybe rounded edges a little bit, and the colors, it's like a warm color with a cold color still, and the cat is round. Everything around on him, other than the ears and the little nose, they're to identify the cat as a cat, are, other than those, everything else is round. And that creates a shape contrast that you had here especially with this really sharp jaw against the cat. This looks really nice. This whole area looks super nice to me. But you kind of lost it again because you decided to give it these sharp edges, and the robot himself has these sharp edges as well. Also, I can see that you added like extra lines to it. I like the idea of you changing the design a little bit to maybe make him like functional. Maybe he could twist and turn the top part, but he couldn't because of the way you I like the idea of you trying to add something more to it, but I believe you failed to add things that would make sense as far as a functionality point of view. Even though it's a very cartoony robot, you still want to make it feel like if you were to make it, it would be functional, right? So, for example, if you're adding this line, all I'm saying is that if you're adding this line here, you should maybe add, I don't know, another line under, or change the design in a way that, oh, I'm adding this line because maybe he rotates the top part of his arms, like he could spin around or something. Try to think of, whenever you change something, don't change something for the sake of changing it. Of course, you want to create visual interest and all that good stuff is good. As opposed to bad stuff is bad. Whenever you add something, don't do it without a thought. Add it for a reason. Especially that now he looks like a Pokeball. That is the main issue that I'm having right here. If I made this like white, his body is a Pokeball at the moment. So you kind of want to avoid... I would want to avoid that if I was you. So that is the part about the main issue about storytelling, composition, and maybe just a little bit of design issues that you have here on the final image. Color. So I said I really like this yellow here, and it's not like it's a bad. It's not like it's a bad thing, but it's placed in the wrong area, and I'll explain. Everything else is gray on the background, and you have one big yellow block. That creates a lot of focus. Not only are you placing it behind the hand that has nothing in it, we have this gray hand against this yellow, and then we have the yellow... I still don't know what this is, like this leaf thingy, or this straw fucking thing. I don't know what to call it, but it's yellow on yellow. I would much rather see it behind the head, even on the torso, or behind the cat, for example. I feel like that would be way more beneficial. This whole square here underneath, just below, would probably be like a way better place to put it. Especially that his eyes are pretty much the only major yellow thing in his body. I mean, there's a little button with a yellow there, but his eyes contrast a lot. One thing I liked from your character, I'm going back a bit on the design here, is that you made his eye squared. The square against the rounded shape is not a bad idea. I wouldn't make it square. I would maybe make it either a diamond shape or something like that, because you want to make it feel like it could almost roll inside of the eye. For example, when you look at Goro's monk-ass eyes here, the reason why the round shape works a little better than the squared one is because if this was like a pebble in a cup, for example, it feels like it could roll easily inside. We instinctively feel like it could move around without any issue. With the square eyes, it's cute. I like the idea, but maybe give it. You can still make it a hard-edged shape. You could go with a diamond shape. You could go with a hexagonal shape instead. That would be a lot more forgiving, and you could still retain the round shape versus sharper shape contrast and create interest there. And last thing is that I'm pretty sure Brad Rigney mentions to not go pure black for a lot of times. There's very specific cases where you want to use pure black. The reason why I love this image down here so much, it's because it's bright. There's a cool light that like this light setup is cool, but it's still it's what is the word I'm looking for? It doesn't seem to be, this scene does not seem to be a serious scene. It's meant to be quite comforting, happy, playful, you know. And the final one, you went so dark that I feel like if you replace the cat and you add a knife to the hand here, this could be a murder bot instead of a pet the kitty bot. It feels very ominous, the fact that it's so dark. It's so like we lose a lot of the shapes here. The colors, honestly, the only thing that is making it be playful is how saturated the colors are. But really saturated colors with pure blacks make it read not good. Here, again, I'll always go back to this sketch that you had here. Everything was a lot more controlled because we have color in the shadow. Because of that, it makes our eyes ease on the brighter, more saturated areas of red and yellow and so on. If you made this scene with like a sunlight, you know, make it more inviting, you know, like a more playful scene here, then that would have been a significantly much better image. I feel like from this point on, once you started rendering, you forgot about everything and you sort of like took things step by step without looking at the whole image as a whole. Yeah, so I wouldn't really go pure black at all. I would even avoid maybe in the areas where light would really have a difficult time getting in. I would probably even avoid there. If I was making a more playful, he means James Brad Rigney, James Gurney. Did I say Brad Rigney? I meant James Gurney. It's my dyslexia. I'm dyslexic, chat. Another thing that you probably learned from James Gurney is that I can see, I see that you're doing a little bit here, but he talks a lot about, there's several names for it: ambient light, ambient color occlusion. There's like so many variables. It's the same thing in the end, where when light hits the surface and it bounces back, light will carry some of that color in it and apply it to the surface it will bounce back into, right? So for example, what I'm saying is that this cat would be a lot yellow. You made the background quite yellow here, and I can see that in the arm there's a bit of a yellow reflection as well. The issue is that you are adding a bit of reflections, but you're adding them what seems to be almost randomly. And I'll say randomly because if light reflects off from here, this yellow, it'll most like the direction. Think of a ping pong ball, right? You throw a ping pong ball at the wall, and the chances is that it's gonna hit the wall and then it's gonna bounce back towards us. I don't think it would ever reach this side of the arm unless off screen there would be another yellow panel that we're not seeing that is reflecting onto the arm here and onto the joint here as well. Unless this joint is meant to be yellow as well, but I don't think so. Because even in the concept, it's just gray joints. Also, you're adding blue here. So you're not understanding, this is not a color or lighting issue. It's more of a form issue, where you're not understanding where the form is in relation to where the light hits. So for example, if you're gonna have blue here, you will also have a little bit of blue on the red here. Also, look how bright this blue is, and it's nowhere bright like that anywhere else. I feel like, okay, maybe not on the hand here, but this is not reading as light. This is reading like it would be maybe like scratches or whatever. Maybe, I mean, I guess it could be considered like that too, but the angle of the hand is towards us, and the angle of the jaw is away from, is sort of to the right of us, right? Because he's looking to the right, and the hand is a bit more, it's closer to looking at us than this. So all that really means, I know this is a rounded shape and you added it here on the left side, so maybe you're comparing like, okay, so this angle here would maybe reflect the same blue as the hand here. Not quite. If actually the angle of the hand here is almost at the same angle as the jaw here, except this one is pointing down and the hand is sort of, maybe not, I can't tell if it's pointing up or is just sort of like straight with our eyes, but I would say that still, as far as angles go, or as far as direction of an angle goes, I'd say that the placement of your colors and your light is something that you need to just, you know, practice simply. And that is related to form. It has nothing to do, I mean, light and form, like, they're both interconnected. You can't really do one without another in a way. I mean, you can, but I'm not going to get into it because otherwise this is going to be a light and form lecture instead of a review. But I am telling you that the surface direction of an area, like for example the surface here on this red part, just this one rectangle section, where is it pointing at, you know? And now you need to take into consideration, how is your scene being lightened up? Where is the light coming from? Which ambient light is in the scene? How far does it reach? What is the angles to it? And then in relation to that, I'm probably speaking Chinese to... Wait, is that... Maybe you are Chinese. I'm probably, as a way of... Okay, I'll take... I'm probably speaking a different language than your own, is what I meant to say. That, that you are maybe not understanding what I'm saying, but trust me, it's about forms. I didn't meant to say it that way, but then I realized how bad it sounded. There's a saying in Portuguese that it may be outdated and maybe sounds racist. But what I meant is that maybe I'm speaking a language that you might not understand. And it'll come with practice. So study forms more than anything for light. And of course, form and light go hand to hand. Think about the direction of the surface of whatever you're painting. Where is it pointing at? And it'll reflect light based on that direction. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that concludes... that concludes this review.